teaching school at the time and joined the Gideons. And while I was with the Gideons and those morning breakfasts, I began to have breakfast every Sunday morning with a man who has become my mentor. And that man is Robert Newsom. He was county attorney at that time and running for district judge. I'd never once in my life thought about going to law school. It had never been on my radar. But God began to put that thought in my heart. I didn't even know how you got into law school. I had my degree. Long story short, I applied and was admitted to SMU Law School. I had to be somewhere where I was going to drive back and forth every day for 3 years. And I did that, enjoyed law school actually. And I wanted to drive back and forth because I knew I was going to set up my practice here. I wasn't going to move my family. I wanted my boys to be raised here. And so we did that. And I'll tell this, because I won't tell it again in the candidates forum. But just some neat things about how God works things out. I asked Judge Newsom, then Robert Newsom, to stay behind. I take that back. At that point that I'd done that, he was Judge Newsom. I'd known, just as I had come to know him, that he was that he too had gone to law school later in life, and so I was really trying to weigh, is that something I needed to do? I didn't know exactly when he was or what his life situation was, but so I asked him his story, and he said, well, he didn't go to law school until he was 33. And I thought, well, that's good. I'm 33, so that's. And his wife was a nurse, and my wife's a nurse, and I thought, okay, that's good. And he had 2 boys that were in 7th and 3rd grade, and my boys were in 7th and 3rd grade, and I thought, wow, that's okay. He went to East Texas State. I went to East Texas State. I thought that his initials are REN, and my initials are REN. I thought, that's this is just eerie. But I still have the little napkin that he wrote in Burton's Restaurant, where he wrote me out some definitions of wisdom, and as we sought wisdom and prayed about going. And God has honored that. My practice has been primarily in the 8th District Court. Now, I don't expect everybody to keep up with the districts. You'll see signs for Irwin Kane, Will Beard. Those gentlemen are running for the 62nd District Court. Also those are district courts with the same type of jurisdiction, but historically in this area, the 8th District Court covers Hopkins, Franklin, Delta, and Rains County. And the 62nd shares 3 of those counties, Delta, Hopkins, and Franklin, whereas the 62nd also goes up into Lamar instead of Rains. For the last 36 years, 2 judges we've had, Judge Ramsay and Judge Newsom, and the arrangement has been, at least it may have even predated that, but we know for the last 36 years, the 8th District Court has been the court to hear felony cases exclusively. Now, it also hears some civil cases, but it hears felony district cases, primarily because some consistency with the 8th District Judicial District Attorney's Office. That also covers 3 of those counties, and just in terms of logistics and so forth, that has covered it well. Again, I have worked primarily in the 8th District Court. I know all of the court personnel. I work well with them. My practice has been designed to cover the kinds of cases that are there. And I will tell you this, the only campaign promise that I will make you is based on the life verse for my life. My mom shared this with me. I don't remember the context, but when I was in high school. Micah 6:8. Where it says that the Lord, we know what the Lord requires from us if we ask. And it's an interesting, the context, there's almost a court case. I just looked at this. It's as if it says that the Lord has issued an indictment against the people of Israel for turning their back and forgetting what God has done for them. And the jury in that case are the mountains, the very mountains, by the way, that will cry out in praise if we keep our mouths shut. And so the people said, well, the Lord said, you've forgotten everything that I've done for you. Well, what is it you want from us, God? The people said. Do you want us to sacrifice a lamb, rivers of oil? What is it you want from us? And the verse says, you know what the Lord requires of you. To do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That's what the district court is all about, justice and mercy. And I would submit to you that you cannot do that unless you walk humbly with God. My only campaign promise to you will be the same thing that Judge Newsom has done every day he's been on the bench for the last 15 years. and that is bathe every single day in prayer, asking God to give me wisdom as I preside over the cases that are brought, so that justice will be done, tempered with mercy, and that God will be glorified. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Eddie. Now we're going to have Will Ramsay. He's talking about Judge Ramsay. You know, I didn't know how long ago it was, but you said 36 years, so that when I guess Judge Ramsay run the first time was 36 years ago. I know I come home from work and Beth says, you know, Donnie, is this young man come by here running for district judge? And I said, I really did like him. That's who I'm going to vote for. And I said, well, okay, it sounds good to me. I mean, I was into politics, but I was more into trying to make a living then than I was in politics. But anyhow, Judge Ramsay, of course, was an outstanding jurist, and we just think the world of him. And fortunately, he had this little offspring here called Will, and Will's running for district attorney, and so far he's the only Republican candidate running. Of course, the other party, they have a sacrificial lamb they're putting up. But Will, we believe, is going to be victorious. But without any further ado, I'll let him brag on himself to me.
Well, y'all, thank you so much. It is an honor to be in Saltillo tonight. This is real close to home for me because I'm from Mount Vernon. And again, I know a lot of you, but I don't know all of you, and my name's Will Ramsay. And I know I look young, but I've tried actually quite a few cases, and I've noticed the more witnesses you put on the witness stand, there's a direct correlation with the eyes of the jury kind of closing and closing and closing. I know I'm about the fifth or sixth witness here, and so I'm going to keep it short and hopefully keep it interesting. I've also started, you know, through this process going to a number of these events, and for some reason I'm kind of towards the end. And I have to sit there and I listen to these great guys get up and say they've been married 28 years, they've been married 20-some-odd years, you know, the love of their life. I want you to know I've got them all beat because I've been single for 34 years. So don't let these guys, I'm not going to let them do it. I've held strong for 34 years. Y'all, it's an honor for me to get up here and talk to you because I am running for district attorney. Let me kind of tell you how I got here very quickly. I did grow up in Mount Vernon, went to Baylor University for both undergrad and law school. I started law school the summer I graduated, actually a week before I walked the stage to graduate undergrad, so I just rolled right in. Was in law school, finished a little early. It was under 3 years, and then after I took the bar exam, a week later, I started at the DA's office in Dallas, and I spent almost 4 years there. And you start trying misdemeanor cases, then you move up into felony cases, and for a boy that grew up in Mount Vernon and then went to Waco to Baylor, that really opened my eyes to a number of things, I got to tell you. And it was an incredible job. It was an incredible experience. And, you know, let me tell you this, that when we pick a jury, whether and by the way, I'm Franklin County attorney right now. I have been since January 109. And when we pick a jury in a criminal case, you tell that jury that as the state, your burden is to prove the elements of the offense by what? By beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the burden that you have as a state. I want to tell y'all something that in deciding to run for district attorney, and I hope you can see, we're close enough here, I hope you can see how sincere I am, that I come into this not just rolling into it. I made this decision carefully and prayerfully because I come into it, Lord willing, with a burden to do the right thing. Okay? I want you to hear me say that. And let me tell you this, as a prosecutor, your duty is to seek justice. And that's a word that we throw around. We use it every day. But that is one of those words that's just heavy. You know, it's just one of those words that we use, but there's so much behind it. Justice, as we were saying the other day, justice is great, and it's just incredible when you've got a bad guy that you're able to go in there and do everything right and protect people and put this guy away for where he can't hurt any more people. Boy, that feels good. But you know what? Justice is also sometimes having to make the hard decisions. You know what I'm talking about? Justice is being able to look at a case and based on what you know is true, having to make a tough decision and do what's right. That's also justice. That's the other side of justice. And I want to tell you that coming into this office, again, Lord, that I get there, I come into it with a burden to do the right thing and to seek justice. And it's just like we tell juries when we're picking these juries that, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt, it is the highest burden in the land. But you know what? It's also one we accept. And we do this every day. We try these cases every day. It's a burden we accept. And I want to tell you something, that it's this burden as district attorney, as your district attorney, I accept. And I want you to know that. Y'all, we need a working DA, if you understand what I'm saying. All these positions, all these gentlemen getting up here and talking, everything goes better if you've just got an individual in there that's ready to get to work, that's ready to be there, be present, and do what you're supposed to do your job. And that's what I want to do. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about getting in there and working. I just want you to know that, okay? How do you make the system better? Communication, working with our law enforcement, being law enforcement's biggest cheerleader, having that open line of communication with law enforcement to where they know if they've got a question or they've got an issue on the front side of a case, I can call Will and he's going to work with me and we're going to get it figured out. And if you do that on the front side, when you're in the courtroom, everything's a whole lot smoother. But I want you to know that I'm going to be a working DA and I'm going to be involved and work hard, because our criminal justice system, to borrow a quote from Jay Garrett, who's the county attorney up in Delta County, and he's right. You know, we need to get these guys in court as soon as possible while they still feel a little bit guilty. I mean, if they these cases sit around for a year, then they start thinking it's our fault that they have to come back to court. We need to get our grand juries meeting. We need to get these cases in front of them. We need to get these cases disposed of. And that happens when you got an office that works hard. Y'all, it's going to be an honor, again, Lord willing, that I get in there and am able to serve you all. And I just thank you so much. I went and I had just so you know, I had a conversation the day I was going down to Austin to run. I stopped in Sulphur Springs, and the incumbent, Martin Brady, I stopped at his office. I had set up an appointment to tell him, go in and sit down with him and tell him that I was going to run. And it was a great meeting. We sat there for quite a while and discussed things. And I didn't know if he was going to run at that point. And he told me that he didn't know if he was going to run at that point. But I wanted him to know where I stood, what my plans were, and then I got on in the car and headed down to Austin to file. And we kept kind of going along a few days. I didn't know if Martin was going to file or not. And then Miss Edwards, I'm about to embarrass you, but there was one day there towards the very end of what I thought was the filing window. Now it's all changed, but where I had heard there was going to be an article coming out in the Sulphur Springs paper. And so we called over we thought, well, where could we get this Sulphur Springs paper, the closest place? And it was at the store over here in Saltillo. And so we called from the law office in Mount Vernon over to Saltillo store, and they say, yeah, we got a paper. And so I thought, well, I'm going to run over there. And I think at that point I didn't know there was an article in there. So I jumped in the car. It was a Friday afternoon, I believe, and it was late. And I drove down to the Saltillo store, and I got out of the car. And I was walking in there. I don't think, of course, I didn't have the correct change. I believe Miss Edwards. And Miss Edwards, Carolyn Edwards back here, was working at the store. And so I said, all right, hold on. I went back to my car to get some more change, and I came back up. And we had never met, I believe. But somehow, because I was probably dressed like this, and we had called earlier, she put two and two together. And she looked at me and she said, it was a great article. And I didn't know there was an article. And it was one of these things out of a movie. And I said, and she said, well, she figured out who I was, and I got that article. And Martin had said he was not running. And I'll never forget that time, Miss Edwards, in Saltillo, Texas, when I came down here and got that paper. But I do have an opponent in the Democratic Party, and I'm excited about it, because I'm excited not just to work, again, Lord willing, if I get in there, but to work between now and then. And if anybody has any questions now or in the future, please contact me, because I want you to know I'm here to listen to you and to work for you. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to come in here and be able to speak to you tonight. So I'd appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will. Proud you could make it tonight. Norman, stand up. I want to introduce, we have two other candidates here tonight. Fortunately for them, they're both running unopposed at this time, but after the sign-up opens up again, Lord only knows. Norman Coyer, Precinct 1 Constable. Norman was appointed by the court when Tex Maynard resigned. Norman and I talked that afternoon. I called him and I said, Norman, congratulations. I think you're going to do a good job. And he says, yeah, and I'm going to need to be talking to you too around December. He says, because I'm going to run on as a Republican. And so that was good news for me. And of course, Norman has done an outstanding job since he's been in office. The other candidate we have is this young lady back there in the back, Beth Wisenbaker. We happen to have the same last name, but she's running to another term for Precinct 1 Commissioner, and so far she's running unopposed.